Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below. Good evening everybody and welcome along to Apex Online Racing. This is season 20 of Xbox One F1. We are at round number 4 here at the Shanghai International Circuit for the Chinese Grand Prix. First held in 2004, just like the Bahrain Grand Prix. The circuit holds the record for the highest number of overtakes during a Grand Prix and was the scene of a F1's 1000 championship race last year. It costed $400 million to make and it was transformed to one of motorsport's most impressive modern facilities. This track was also where we saw Nico Rosberg take the first win for Mercedes in F1 back in 2012, and this was the start of things to come for the Mercedes team being consistently dominant since 2014. Let's have a look at the track. 5.4 kilometers long, 16 turns, 7 to the left and 9 to the right. 2 DRS zones, with one being at the start finish straight and one being turn 13 and 14. This is going to be a test for the drivers today because of the balance you need to find between being quick around the long corners and maintaining the life of that precious front left tyre. You can see one of the action zones here. The corner turn 1 is very tricky, and this is where we saw the Williams and the Haas driver go side by side up to the end of turn 3. We now go to PS4 season 19 for the next action zone in turn 13 into turn 14. It is a huge flat out section and we can see the Mercedes being very confident on the brakes. Goes side by side with the Renault on the left and providing some great overtaking opportunities. 3 compounded tyres used for today's race, which is the soft, which is the C3s, medium C2s and hards, which is the C1s. Tyre degradation a bit tricky on this track, one of the trickiest on the calendar. The mediums being 1.4 seconds slower than the softs and the hards being 2 seconds slower than the softs. So a little bit of a tricky one. So 15 minutes left to go of the session and we've got 14 drivers on track, well, in the lobby at the moment, but we are waiting for, I think, a few more drivers to jump into the session. My name is Jess and I'll be your commentator for today, and we hope that you will get stuck in with the action here tonight. So let's take you on board with a hot lap with our current championship leader, who has won 2 races so far this season. 1 last time out in Vietnam and 1 in Bahrain. So we're going to go to turn 1. The opening section of the lap is probably the most iconic aspect of this circuit. At this point, you should be around 2nd to 3rd gear here, travelling at just around about 60 miles per hour. After a small dab on the brakes, you will want to go into 6th gear here, go onto the right-hand curb as much as you can, and then to the left, making sure that it does not spin out on exit. Clip the inside curb with your front left tyre just a little bit here, like that. And then you go to the left just a little bit more with ERS at full power. And then you're going to just stab on the brakes into 5th gear. And then down into 2nd and then 3rd gear. Heading towards, potentially turns 9 and 10. Then going into 11 and 12. Aim to your front right wheel alongside the inside curb without anything going for the long way over. Now, towards turn 13 and 14 now, the DRS straight. One of the most powerful DRS straights on this circuit. And this is where we can see some great overtaking opportunities, like I said. And he's opened the DRS quite quickly, actually, as you head towards turn 14. If you get this right and get a good run here, then you should be able to nail it and get the move done. Final few corners into turn 15 and 16. A few of the stewards have told us that these drivers have got to be kept an eye on this corner to avoid invalidations. So here we go then. That was Bobbert on a lap with a 1:29.4. I think we could expect people to be into the 1:28s today, but you will never know with these bunch of drivers. So, we'll go through the championship results then for this tier Xbox One F1. I apologise, I called it Bahrain Grand Prix earlier. It was meant to be the Chinese Grand Prix, but there we go. So anyway, Roberts leads by 10 points with 58 points over Humperdinck in second. Then we got Tom in third place with 33 points. Fourth place is LGS with 26 points. Fifth place is Alex Daegu with 25 points. Sixth place is King Kont with 24 points. Seventh place is Jonah with 20 points. Eighth place is Amaze with 18 points, joint with Alfio. And 10th is Scary Raw with 16 points. 11th is GC with 6 points, joint with Jam Pancakes. 13th place is KC, 14th place, and the rest of the drivers still yet to score. Luckily, we got KC to just join the session, which is good news. That's one thing I like about this game, is that if you join midway through qualifying, you should still be able to get a lap in. And I do believe he's chosen the right car, so all is good on that front. Anyway, KC is about to go through the next part of the circuit, just about to head towards sector 3 here, and he just passed turn 10 and heading into turn 11 and in a little kick of turn 12. So does it very, very nicely indeed as he's about to start his lap time. Now, a few drivers to watch out for, and I think a few penalties to watch out for as well. That's why some of the drivers are not here tonight. JJ Rocks unfortunately cannot make it this evening because he's got a race ban due to him accumulating a lot of penalty points this season already. So that is a bit unfortunate, but hopefully he would be able to have a much better race next week and come back feeling refreshed for Zandvoort for the Dutch Grand Prix. Last season's champion Pancakes is about to be going on his lap right now, and let's see what he does so far. It's kind of been a bit of a mixed bag for him this season. He scored points in every race due to a few people picking up penalties, so he's been benefiting from people's mistakes. But as a driver who has won multiple titles in multiple leagues, you would expect him to do a lot better than expected. But it's a new game. It takes a while sometimes. There's some elements where you'll find a bit tricky, and sometimes practice makes perfect, and that is the case for him. And it is a long season, so the benefit of it being a much longer season compared to previous seasons is due to the fact that you can make some mistakes and then recover from it next time about. So Pancake's looking very strong, as I said, in Sector 2, so maybe a little bit of a psychology there, maybe a bit of a positive jinx has probably helped me a little bit there. So, or maybe he's watching the stream, you never know, as he's probably going to potentially get a toe from potentially the car in front, but it's not going to be quite enough for him, unfortunately. But there's quite a few people that could take advantage of that. We've got the two Haas cars of Kontnik and Kontdaegu. Maybe they could be working together as a team tonight to see how they could do it in the DRS straight. We've also got the two McLaren drivers, and we've got, I think that's it, and then we've got the two Renault drivers as well. Actually, no, Jakey is the only Renault driver on second. Now, Jakey's reserve, so, and he got pole last week. Now, something to watch out for Jakey. Unfortunately, he retired early on. He was starting off as the dominant person in the Vietnamese race, but unfortunately, he made a mistake on his own, looks like, when I was watching the race back, and that's a bit of a shame. When you're running so well, anything can happen and then you just spin it. And it just goes to show for these drivers that they can't become complacent when you're in a race car. And I think Jakey wants a little bit better, and he's got a lot to prove if he wants a full-time seat, because it is still possible to get a full-time seat in this league. You got to believe in yourself, really, to be honest. And he said he prefers China. And we do know last season, China definitely put a few spanners in the works, I've got to say. It was raining a little bit, then it was dry, and then it was raining again. So, yeah, that should be a lot interesting. Now, we should be getting Maze in the lobby at some point as well. Not entirely sure when that's going to happen, but we'll see how Jakey gets on with his lap. I didn't see him be purple in sector 2, or it might have just been that my eyes have gone a little bit weak for some reason, but there is a yellow flag which he's gone past for, luckily, but I think one of the racing points wasn't quite so lucky. There is John Papp, got a bit squirmy there just past turn 14 now as Daegu has retired from the session, which is a bit unfortunate. I don't know where that happened at all. As I said, Jakey unfortunately has invalidated the final corner. Now, I did say that is a common place to invalidate around this circuit heading towards turn 16. And Jakey, I think, was a victim at the moment. So, unfortunately, he can't improve. Now, interesting to see. I thought a lot more people would be on the medium compounded tyres. But, obviously, since the mediums could last a bit longer on this game and the hards as well, potentially that's why a lot more people go on the soft compounded tyres as Jakey invalidates again. Now, Bobbert is in 4th place. Now, he's known from starting at this level on the grid in 4th place, 3rd place, and then he has a very good start to potentially get the lead. So it is possible for the McLaren driver as he heads towards turn 11 now into turn 12. And Squishy Panda, I accidentally called her a he last week, but she keeps changing her gamer tag, and it's usually a bit confusing, but it is Squishy Panda. She goes into the pits now, and it's a 1:29.5 for her at the moment. Someone 1:25.576. So the gaps are starting to close in. Probably the closest qualifying between 1st place and 10th place at this stage. And don't forget, the ones who are outside the top 10, they have an opportunity to start on whatever tyre they want to. And if they don't qualify outside the top 10, then they'll have to start on the tyre they set the fastest lap on. Now, the softs here can last 7 laps, with the optimum pace around here being 5 laps. So ideally, you don't want to be on the softs very long. So a majority of these guys in this race would probably want to get the softs out the way first. That is why they will go on the softs first and then go on to the hards, which will last the rest of the race, and then jobs are good in. Now, Casey, unfortunately, didn't have luck the last few races. Well, he didn't have luck the last race, actually. He got P11 in the first race, P12 in Bahrain, and he did not finish in Vietnam. Now, Vietnam is quite tricky, and a few people were caught up. There was quite a few safety cars as well, and a lot of wet weather in the mix as well, so it was not really a surprise to see that. There was a few people that got really unlucky last week, so hopefully some of these guys do not get unlucky this week. As Casey invalidates as he went just a little bit off there. Hopefully he has time to go into the pit lane to set a final lap. I think, to be honest, he'll just about make it into the pits. Just hope that the pit crew are very quick, just sorting out his car, ready for the final stages of this qualifying session. And I do believe it's 20, I need to check how many laps. Yeah, there's 28 laps in this clockwise circuit. And a mixture of strategies could come into play, like I said earlier. Con Pablo in 4th place at the moment, as he is on a lap, which I do believe he's backed out a bit there because he's on 0 ERS, or he might just be on another out lap just so he can warm his tyres up for another in lap, well, fly lap. Well, that could cost him, which means that if he starts on these particular tyres in the race, then you probably have to pit a lap earlier, maybe lap 5 or lap 6, but maybe this guy is probably looking to go for the undercut strategy for this race. As we're getting a little bit of a back shot there from Pablo. And he's got the DRS open anyway, so I'm guessing he just wants to try with 0 ERS just to show off a little bit. King Kont did invalidate a little bit on his outlap, but he's fine as he starts one of his final laps, I believe. So I don't think he's going to have time to set another one unless he's put enough fuel in the car and enough ERS in the car. Now, heading towards turn 3 and into turn 4, and then heading into the long straight start, the end of sector 1, and then into turn 6. A little bit of a kick there, a little bit scrammy from King Kont, but he's still carrying on, trying to set the best lap possible. He's got a bit of cleaner air at the moment. I thought he would take a bit more of an advantage with his teammate, but maybe he could do it in another lap potentially as well. Maybe his teammate could be waiting in the wings potentially as well. But we got the Alfa Romeo in between them as well, so that's not going to help him. So if he wants to climb up the order, he really needs to find a few tenths. And the smallest mistakes here at the moment could cost you a few positions. Because from P1 to around about P11, separated by 8 or 9 tenths, which is absolutely insane at the moment. As he goes towards turn 14 now. Oh, as he bins in the wall. Oh, that was a huge mistake there. Hopefully that's not damage. John Pappas retired as well. He goes for provisional pole position at the moment, which is pretty good actually. Let's see what Jakey can do on these final stages. It is the calm before the storm for a majority of these guys now. However, a few people that are just in the pits, they might not be able to make it, so that they are cutting it a little bit fine, as obviously an outlap is more than 1 minute 29, 1 minute 30. It's around about a minute 40, a minute 50, so they could just do it. And I think they're allowed to cut a few corners on that outlap, but we will have to wait and see. As Jakey's about to start his final lap, Jonah is going towards, I can't remember what turn it is. Maybe if I turn my map around, probably it'll give me a little bit of an idea. I believe they're heading towards just past turn 10 into turn 11. He's got Bobbers in front of him. Now, if you've got traffic in front of you on your outlap, it's really not going to help you. Remember yesterday at the Russian Grand Prix where there was a red flag? There was someone who was trying to make it into Q3, trying to hold up the field so bad. It nearly worked in their favour, and it was a good strategy from them. And luckily they were still going at a decent pace as well. So maybe that's what some of these guys are trying to do. Bobbers is just waiting for this clear air. Jonah, I think, slowing a bit down as well. There's a few people slowing down too. And if you get it, that chain reaction, the more people slow down, it's going to hinder you quite a lot. Squishy Pan has retired, so is King Kont and Condego. Obviously, they retired early on. Con Pablo is about to start his final lap. Bobbits 2 just going in into turn 3 and then heading in into just past the king of turn 4 and into turn number 5 and 6. And they can see the tyres, which are the breaker marker boards, and I like that at the moment. Bobbitt's currently sitting P5, sorry, but he's purple sector 1. He's looking almighty quick. He's gaining by the second. And the checkered flag is about to drop here in China. And we are about to see who's going to get pole position. Now, let's see, we got an Alpha that's going to be the first person to cross the line as he goes. Oh, he's slowing down. I'm guessing he's not happy with his lap. As who's passing him? I think it's Bobbers. And it might be LGS in front of him. LGS getting a bit of toe there. I think Alvio was not expecting that to come through him. So LGS going just past turn 15 and now heading into turn 16 then. Final corner, can he do enough to get pole position? 125.9, Jakey gets pole, but it's getting his team. Bobbers can't do enough, he is in at P2. What about Jonah? P4 for him. Con Pablo puts him in P4 and beats Jonah. Has a few more people on the lap. Tom, who was the Australia pole sitter, can he get his second pole this season? Nope, he does not. There's 2 more people to that lap. I think Humperdinck improves to P7 and Pancakes could only do P10. So all that's left to do is to watch Casey on his lap time. And he's slowing down and he's going into the pit lane. So he's the only guy that's not in between the 128s to 130s, but the race is far from over for the Ferrari driver. But fair play to Jakey, his second pole of the season. Surely he's going to be happy with that. No one in this tier this season has converted from a pole to a win. Can we see it happen tonight? Well, it is up to Jakey. It's up to Jakey to make that happen, and I'm a bit worried that I've got a little bit of a commentator's curse on some of these drivers, because usually I say about the pole to win ratio in Apex Online Racing, and it just never transpires, so we'll just have to find out. So here is your running order then, with Jakey in first place by 1/10 of a second. Look at the gap between first and 11th. Only 8 tenths. Insane. Bobbitt's in second. John Papp in third. Pablo in fourth. Tom in fifth place. Jonah in P6. Humperdinck in seventh. Squishy Panda, she's in eighth. LGS in ninth. Pancakes rounds up your top 10 with Alfio in 11th. Cont in 12th. Nick in 13th. Dagear in 14th. And KC in 15th place. Everybody setting a lap time around this circuit. Now, before we head to the race then, let's have a look at this lovely, beautiful McLaren 9090 car, which went on the circuit today for the exhibition race. Just look how powerful it is. Ayrton Senna drove it quite a few times as well. And the engine sound does make it infectious, meaning that I do wish that the engine sounds back in the 90s would come back as well. It's not as fast as today, but the racing back in those days does sound all the more sweeter. Ayrton Senna being successful in it, and there was a lot of times where the McLaren team has scored multiple world titles. Remember Mika Hakkinen back in 98 and 9? He has won a few world titles there as well. Jenson Button almost came close in 2012 for winning a title there as well. His second world title would have been too. Lewis Hamilton most famously won his first world title in only second season back in 2008. Unfortunately, Lewis Hamilton though didn't have any luck in China, but you never know. We could see some luck around China, and I'm about to head back to the race action then in China, and you are going to be absolutely amazed as to what the weather is going to be like. It is raining once again. It did the same last week where it had a wet start, and we're going to get exactly the same. Now, ignore the fact that it is possibly soft to hard, because it might not happen. And that was why, potentially, a majority of the guys started on the soft. There was not many people that did their bankers on the medium compounded tyres. And I thought, yeah, the soft to hard strategy could be possible. So that's probably why they wanted to opt for that. But then I realised, it could be rain. And it is full wets as well. Again, like last week. So, at this point, usually I go through the tyre strategies, but potentially, if it stays full wet for the entire race, then they don't have to pit. We saw in one of the Oceania races, I think it was season 4, where Fens did not pit for the entire race because he didn't have to in the full wet conditions, and he went on to win. But you got to be so good on your tyres, and tyre temperatures is definitely a thing on this game, so a little bit harder around China. Heavy braking zones is going to be a factor, especially towards turn 1 and 3. That's where the rear end are going to overheat if you brake too hard. That's why a lot of these drivers hopefully have nailed trail braking, because if you nail trail braking, then this can help you in circuits like this. So we've got Jakey on pole. Bobbers, the championship leader, in P2. John Papp in P3. Now, I definitely cursed John Pap last week by saying, oh, he could win, and then he bends it. I think I had the record of the most commentators' curses in one stream for quite a while. And I did apologise to the drivers as well. But we shall see who's going to come out on top tonight. Let us know your predictions in chat as we're about to get underway with 28 laps worth of racing. Here we go then. We've got Jakey on the right. Bubba's on the left. The fiber lights are on. And it is lights out, and away we go. It is a pretty decent start from Jakey, actually. But let's see what Bubba's could do heading towards the run into turn one. A little bit of a lag from John Pap. Hopefully that is just my lag from him and not the others, because otherwise it's going to be very tricky for everyone to nail turn one. Now heading towards turn two. Now it looks like everyone seems to be doing it pretty well, as I think, yeah, majority of people going all right. And I spoke too soon as we saw Pancakes spinning it there into turn three. That's sad. That's not going to do his tyres any good as well. Alfio might have got caught up in that as well, but we're still having people going side by side into the tricky hairpin in turn six, and now heading towards turn seven now. Nick is going to try for the move. It doesn't matter if it's dry or wet for him. He wants to take the gamble so hard here. Jonah holding on to the right-hand side line, which is benefiting him. But you can see the conditions are so hard. The only person that's going to benefit from this conditions is Jakey. He's got clear air in front of him, no dirty air, and you should be able to see from his perspective. But from everybody else, it's going to be tricky. It's like, in some areas of the circuit, it's like monsoon has hit. I am not even kidding right now, as we do have a yellow flag in sector 2, and that is Pancake spinning again into turn 9. So he's down in last place at the moment. Now, due to the fact that it's wet, no DRS. And especially with a track that it's very hard to overtake, Jakey's in a much better position, but he's got to keep his car under control. Like I said last week, a few of the drivers do tend to struggle in these wet conditions, and it does come back to bite them. And I wonder how many people have gone for wet setups. It is a tricky balance to find, but if it was a full wet race, I would definitely choose a full wet setup for definite, even if it compromises your qualifying. As I think Humperdinck got caught up in an instant as well. So Humperdinck is now changing his front wing. There he goes. And going on to, I believe, if I just check the tyres, if it is the same on the wet tyres right now. I wonder if we're going to get a similar situation to last week where it's wet to dry again. We shall see. It is the curse that it does rain in China around here. As Condegu has retired from the session. And I believe, I'm just trying to figure out where it is. It is on the track map. It looked like turns 7 and 8 by the looks of things. So unfortunately that's his race over. And we're down to 14 drivers. And it's only a virtual safety car as well. I'm surprised. I thought there would have been a safety car. But that's just the way Cody is these days. Right now, Jakey already pulling off a good gap between himself and Bubbets. Bubbets not getting the start that we would have wanted, but still. At least he'll still be happy because obviously Jakey is reserve driver. He's not his nearest championship rival. His nearest championship rival is Humperdinck in P2 in the standings, but right now he's only 13th. Meanwhile, Tom and Pablo going side by side into turn 15 and 16. We got Tom that's binned it and to the wall there. I don't know if he got caught up in something or if he just lost it on his own, but that was a really nasty shunt. Luckily, he got the car back under control again. But unfortunately, that means for him that he is going into the pits to change his front wing. LGS has done exactly the same. Or maybe he wants to get rid of his wets and try and stay out for another set of wets for as long as he could. We shall see. And he is changing his front wing as well. So a lot of front wing repairs. That's going to cost the teams a lot of money here today around China. And I think a lot of teams are going to have a little bit of a debrief as well after this race. Now you can see not much of a gap between these guys now. They're finding their flow a little bit. And because of those gaps, a lot of these guys are starting to pull away. The gap between first and third, 1.8 seconds. And John Pat might be under pressure from Pablo pretty soon. Squishy Panda, she's looking quite good in 5th place. 9/10 separating between her and Pablo. So potentially this could be the Trilly train that I've been talking about for weeks and weeks on end in this race. And you never know what might happen with that. Finding a bit more, she is a lot faster than previous laps. 8/10 per second now. She was 7/10 or 6 seconds, but she has got a yellow warning light. So she has been running on rich mixture for quite a long time. I wonder if she's forgotten to change it. We did have a few penalties pop up on my screen. Not sure who by, because for majority of them, they have popped up ever so fast. And we can see a few of these guys wanting to try and make the one stop work. Because in my opinion, with the way that these guys are pushing, there's no way you could do zero stops around here. It's impossible. When I was racing in the rain around China in my career mode, even I struggled on the inters and then the 4 wets, and it just got so tricky that it was impossible to do a 0 stop on these tyres. So, but again, these are the top tier drivers. They know what they're doing, but the strategy could change like a drop of a hat. It could dry any second. But the way the rain is coming down is probably not going to change the outcome. As Kont Daegu has left the session, a bit unfortunate, but I think he's probably given up after that unfortunate retirement. And I wonder how John is relishing that pressure. I think last week, the pressure of him leading and potentially being in a race winning position got the best of him. But this week, he's probably learned from it and said, right, what can I do to try and be in that position for the majority of this race? I think John Papa's got a warning for that, as he does set the fastest lap of the race so far. Jakey's in the pit lane, so he's doing his first stop. A little bit earlier than I thought it was going to be. I'm guessing the wet tyres are not the best around here. Intermediates. We are probably potentially could be on the cusp of being wet and inters. We could see a similar race compared to last week repeat before our very eyes. Squishy Panda, she decided to take the gamble, and if she gets that gamble right, she's going to be incredibly faster compared to everybody else. And maybe she was following what the leader did, and you know what, it could have worked. Whereas Bobbert, John Pap are staying out. I have noticed by going on board with John Pap that is getting increasingly lighter on the track. You can actually see the car in front of you a lot more now. So, and there's still a lot of standing water, so it is an impossible balance. But as a racing driver, you got to take risks, and if you take the right risks, it will pay off. But if you don't take the right risks, then you will learn from it and see how you can improve for future races to come. John Pap still on the back straight then, found some time to Bobbert actually. So Bobbert not pulling away as I would have thought at these early stages of the race. Clouds are starting to come, but it's still quite dark. Will Bobbert and John Pap go into the pit? Both of them do. Will Pablo do the same thing or would he stay out? Now, Pablo goes in. Nick goes in. Literally everyone is going into the pit lane in China. Jonah as well. What about Casey? Casey stays out. Casey stays out, so he's the last of those runners to stay out then. And we got Jakey, purple sector 3. So if that's not a sign to pit for Inters, then I don't know what is. I think Casey might have made a bit of a mistake here, as everyone else around him has pitted. Humperdinck's doing the same thing. What about Tom? Tom is doing the same thing as well. Alfio has just pitted as well a lap earlier. Pancakes does the same. What about LGS? He does as well. So Casey has probably shot himself in the foot there. But we can see Jakey already catching up to him already, and Jakey has just pitted. And that is a sign, more than anything, that Casey will think the Inters will be the best situation. And it definitely is. It's coming. The rain is easing just a little bit quicker than I thought. Probably the quickest transition from wets to Inters than I ever seen on this game. And let me know in chat if you think it's going to dry up. You can see JKB getting a better run. It's also a little bit of a love tap as well for them, both of these drivers. So Jakey now is going to concentrate getting that gap. Because if any penalties come into force, then it wouldn't matter for him. He just wants to be in the best position to score some decent points and the win. He missed out on the win due to a retirement last week. Could we see him getting the first win from pole? Maybe he could do the hat trick. And Casey has realised that Inters is the best thing for now. But unfortunately, Casey is going to be losing a chunk of time. So there goes Casey into the pit lane on those Inters. So everyone is on the Inters now. So we could see some more battles. Nick on Pablo. Can't teammates in the same esports team. And for majority of these leagues, you want to help the teammate in the constructors, because a lot of people take constructors a bit more seriously than I thought. But some people don't. Or some people just want to help their esports team. So I wonder if you were in that situation and you had your teammate behind you and your esports teammate in front of you, what would you do? Would you try and defend that position for your esports teammate, or try and let past your constructors teammate? I don't know, it'll be a hard situation to be in, but for me, if I was in that situation, I would want to do well in the constructors. So I would let my constructors teammate through and try and attack them, the esports person. But it is hard to come by around this circuit. Gap now, Jakey and Bob is 2.2. So the gap is increased since the pit stops. So Jakey, obviously pitting first, he had the advantage. Obviously, a majority of people, pretty much everyone, pitted for the Inters at the same time. So, and Bobbers is setting the fastest lap of the race. Don't forget, these drivers will be getting fastest lap points if they're inside the top 10. And fastest lap points can make a huge difference into gaining a position or losing a position in the championship. So all means everything right now. Nick's still not getting past Pablo. So I think in these 4 wet conditions, the best situation is to be about a few tenths behind the car and behind or in front to get the move done, because otherwise it's going to be a bit more difficult. Pablo's probably relieved that Nick is staying behind him. But Pablo's got to try and attack from the car in front, which is Squishy Panda. So looking at the people that have made their stops as well, Everyone has made one stop except Humperdinck, Tom and LGS. So those 3 drivers have got a lot of work to do, because if the weather changes like to the same extent as Vietnam, they would still have one stop under their belt, and that is something to pay close attention with. Sorry, my words were getting a bit stumbled today. Caught in 9 seconds, so 9/10 per second now, not 9 seconds. So the gap is increasing. The more slipstream you have, the more it's going to benefit you. So you really got to be on the pace early on. He was 7 tenths. Potentially could be 6 tenths at the moment. Squishy Panda needs to get a move on, because otherwise the train is going to increase and increase and increase lap after lap after lap, and you don't want to be in that position. You would rather be on the attack than defending, because defending around here on this circuit in the wet, honestly, I would probably find it the trickiest, especially around turn 13 into turn 14. So let's go your race so far. So, Jakey B is your race leader. 3.2 seconds clear of SSR Roberts in P2. John Pap in P3. Squishy Panda in 4th. Con Pablo in 5th. Nick in P6. Jonah in P7. An 8-second gap to him. And Alfio in 8th place. Obviously the 2 teammates. Casey in P9. So maybe the stop that he did to pit a lap later than everybody else may have not been as a hindrance as we would have thought. And he is already getting faster. Now the fastest lap so far for these guys is a 1:44.9 set by the pole sitter Jakey. And he set another one again as I said that, so that was quite convenient, wasn't it? So we will potentially be getting halfway 4 laps down the line. So this is where we could see more people thinking of what's the best tire to go on, because the Inters, they won't last for the whole race. The Inters do last a similar time to the mediums, which is around about 16 laps. We've got more than 16 laps to go of this Grand Prix. Everyone has either been on those Inters between 2 to 4 laps. And if they do try to get it to the end, they will be in puncture territory. I'm going to call it right here and right now. So, what is the strategy here? Try and get your tyres up into good temperature and trying to get as clear air as possible, but you got people chasing you, so you got to find a balance throughout the race. And the more that you're stuck behind a train of other cars, the more damage it's going to do to your tyre wear and degradation. So that is what Squishy Panda is thinking right now, up into 4th place. 1 second between him and Pablo, so the gap is increasing there as well. King continue. Getting just a little bit faster on Casey. Going down turn 10 and into turn 11. Going on to that left-hand curb and now to the right. Let's see if King Continue gets a good run heading into turn 13. It is a long straight. I think King Connor's got the better exit into that corner. So that helps him a little bit more, and I think there was no challenge there, was it? King Connor around the outside there. And he takes P9. One move from him. And there's more chance for these drivers as well to basically get points rather than not get points. So if you do not get points, it will be a disaster. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a quick drink as my voice is starting to die on me for a second. So I will be back in a second. Right then, so we are back after I've got a quick drink, and the order still stays as it is before, with Jakey leading the gap. 3.8 now, so he is definitely finding his rhythm on this circuit. So more things to watch out for is definitely turn 11 to 13, because you got to clip the apex ever so slightly without running on those curves a little bit, and it's incredibly trickier in the wet. Pablo, I think, has lost a bit of time to Squishy Panda. I think the intermediate tyre is not going the best way right now for him. 5 laps, and I'm a bit shocked about that, because I thought Squishy Panda would struggle a bit more. She's on the older tyres, but it does take a lap to get to temperature, so maybe he either overwarmed it or he didn't warm it enough, but he hasn't spun a lot, so I don't think it was because the temperature was cold with the tyres. And again, it's really hard in the rain. That was why we saw a lot more spins earlier on, due to people not warming their tyres enough, and that is a crucial factor in the formation lap on this game. And you've got to do it with VSC, safety cars, formation laps, a lot of them. Because if you don't do that, it's going to cost you a chunk of time. And I don't think Pablo's going to make the move on this occasion. He's gained, I think he's lost a lot more time in sector 1 and 2. Because sector 3, that's where he's gaining. But it's not just about gaining on the straight. You also got to gain on the corners. So Pablo's setup is probably geared towards that at the moment, as we will wait very, very patiently to find out what is happening with this battle, which is going to soon be freeway, with Nick in the mix as well. Nick is saying to himself, hang on, whilst Pablo and Squishy Panda are having the battle, I can close in. And maybe that's what some of the guys are thinking as well. Don't forget though, Nick is running his own race at the moment with his teammate out, and his teammate may be giving some cheeky strategies here and there to find out what would be the best, perhaps. Maybe some of the guys in the chat watching right now could be a Jeff, and they could be watching the penalties with huge excitement, with added breath as well. It's not been as intense as the last few races, but only time will tell. As we can see then, it is starting to ease just a little bit more. And you could see a little bit of a dry line forming, but a bit more puddles as well, as I think Nick has been caught in it. And I think that was my first jinx of the stream, so I do apologise about that, guys. Jinxing some people yet again, but that was, to be honest, that was less jinx than I had last week. Oh my goodness, I had said less drinks. I don't know why I said less drinks. Oh my god. I might have said that earlier as well. I do apologise about that. So 1.7 now. A few more people are thinking to pit. So Nick's pitting for potentially next lap. What about Pablo? Pablo is pitting next lap. So is Squishy. John Pap's not. Neither's Bobbits. And Jakey is. That is mixed strategy there. So obviously these guys trying to pit at a decent time where those tyres can definitely last. Because if you leave it on for too long, the ones on the fresher tyres are going to be the ones that benefit from it. So something that could benefit the ones that are about to pit like Jakey. And maybe Bobbers has got to react to Jakey. If Bobbers doesn't do that, then probably a chance of him getting the race victory here today could be long gone. Because it's been more powerful, the undercut, this race so far, when these guys have done it. And we've seen in the PS4 tier 1, where we saw this as well. So that's how these drivers are thinking. Maybe that could work here as well. So we're going to see then, is Jakey going into the pit lane? Nope, he's not. So that's probably the game throwing havoc, or maybe Jeff telling him to pit now, but them thinking that they can get those tyres to the end. We shall see. Jeff is like that on this game. It throws you a different strategy, and sometimes you do not have to follow it. I don't follow Jeff sometimes because, especially around my team, they put you on the most ridiculous strategy known to man. They would probably put you behind more than the head. So you got to think strategically. Jeff is not always there to solve your strategic problems. That is one thing that I've learned on this game, and being obviously a casual player, that is just definitely one thing that I've grown up to get used to a majority of the time. We are past the halfway mark now. No signs of eating up at the moment, but I do see a little bit of blue coming up on the clouds. You never know. So that's what some of these guys are hoping for. Maybe the pit windows come up, but obviously the dry window hasn't popped up yet, because we don't know if it's going to dry up or not. The only people that know are the drivers. Usually I ask the drivers before the race about the weather, but I didn't this week. And to be honest, I'm glad I didn't, because it makes the race much more interesting. It makes the race a little bit more unpredictable for these drivers to manage. And it's a great spectacle as well. So, Squishy Panda and John Pap, 10 seconds. So it is coming up to a much quieter battling stage at the moment. And with no DRS, that's probably why. So it's going to get interesting when it eases up even more. But at the moment, we'll just have to wait. There could be someone that might make a mistake around turn 1 again if they're battling nearby. Humperdinck is getting close to KC now. I wonder if KC is going to throw a little bit of a challenge there, or is KC going to let Humperdinck go? I think, knowing the way KC races, that's what happens. Meanwhile, King Continue goes into the pit lane. And I do believe, I think it was just Inters. Yeah, it enters. So he's gone for his second stop. So he thinks the dry is not going to be coming. So maybe the dry tyres won't be coming then. But if it is, could he have made the biggest mistake? If the drivers were to make those Inters last a bit longer, it will probably last 3 or 4 more laps optimum pace. So they got to be careful. Jakey would have more of an advantage due to the fact that he's saving his tyres, being at the front. He also has the benefit of saving his ERS as well. And speaking of that, Jakey goes into the pit lane. But Jakey has done something that he should not do here. Jakey has got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And that could cost him the race win. That is why I said earlier, make sure you get a decent gap. Because if you get that 5-second penalty added on, then it wouldn't hinder you. That was what Lewis Hamilton was trying to do after he got his penalty in the Russian Grand Prix. Hashtag spoiler alert, but the thing is, Jakey did not want this. Or maybe he could be like Daniel Ricciardo and be like, right, this is my possible excuse to speed up and probably go a little bit faster. Now, he'll probably still come out ahead of the guy in front of him anyway. But the next guy in front is Pablo, who's around about 2.6 seconds behind. So that should be intriguing. KC also opts to pit. He is on the intermediate conditions. I'm just trying to think if that was for damage or if that was for just a general tyre stop. And I do believe that was a tyre stop for him. And there's hardly any rain now. So maybe we can get to a situation where it will stop raining, but the rain, it won't dry out quick enough to go on the dries. Or maybe the intermediate conditions are not lasting as we thought it might be. I thought it would last 16 laps, but optimum pace is probably less than that at the moment. Robert's still in the lead of this race, but not the net race leader. Your net race leader is Jakey. And second is Nick, but the gaps may say otherwise. So again, that is another thing to consider. So only 3 people are pitted right now for a fresh set of inters. I think some of these guys may wait until the rain gets lighter, but it may be too little too late. So sometimes you just got to find your gut feeling. And maybe the gut feeling is to pit. And if you made that extra stop, maybe it could be worth it. Because Jakey is catching to Pablo. So there may be a sign for Pablo to pit now. And if you know the one on the fresher tyre is faster than you, then you probably know that you shot yourself in the foot. For those of you that just joined us, welcome to the Xbox One F1 tier. We are around Shanghai International Circuit today for the Chinese Grand Prix. It's been some quiet races towards the end, but sometimes you just got to find your flow there as well, which is what a majority of these guys would want to do. As we're now approaching lap 20 of 28. Actually, no, we're on lap 19, sorry. Because Jakey is not your race leader. Jakey Purple set to 3 on those fresher tyres. So Bobbers, if I was Bobbers, I would pit next lap. Because otherwise you're going to lose so much time. You're probably going to have a bigger gap compared to where you were before Jakey's pitted. But don't forget, Jakey has still got to serve his 5-second stop go penalty, whereas Bobbers does not have a 5-second stop go penalty, so that's something to watch out for. And I think, I just don't think it's going to dry out quick enough. I just don't think it's going to dry out quick, so I think Bobbers may need to hang the towel a little bit, I don't know, but we will see as the session goes on. As Bobber's getting some cleaner air, which may benefit him in the long run. The pit loss around here, around this track, if I look at my notes, the pit loss is around about 20 seconds. 22.5 seconds to be exact. And the gap between Bobbers and Jakey is 16 seconds. So yeah, it's going to be a big gap between Jakey and Roberts. Jakey's going to come up comfortably in the lead. But for how much longer? For my calculations, it stopped raining. It has stopped raining. So how long is it going to take for the track to become less damp and dry up? Because you can still see some spray. If I were the drivers racing, do not pit for dries, as it's far too early to do so. We are seeing exactly the same situation as last week. It started up full wets, it then went to inters, and then it's going to the dry compounded tyres potentially. But there was a situation in Hungary one time when I was commentating where it was a wet to dry race. It did stop raining, but the track didn't dry quick enough to go onto these dry tyres, and it wasn't worth it. But Alfio has probably upset the critics maybe, or even proved the critics wrong potentially. We shall see, but again, Alfio may have made the wrong choice here. He's on the soft compounded tyres, and yeah, it's just far too early. The softs only last 7 laps, and around here, if you get the tyre completely wrong, your tyre wear is going to be at an increased level. Your tyre temperature is going to be at an increased level as well. Maybe staying out a few laps and then going on the softs would have been a better option. You can see some damp places here. But maybe a lap later would have been best. Sector 2 is still a bit damp. John Mapp goes in. What tyres does he go on to? He goes on to the mediums. So I think John Mapp is playing it safe at this moment in time. He thinks the softs could not make it to the end, which to be honest, I still don't think it would make it to the end anyway. So John Mapp just wants to make sure that he gets to the end, because unfortunately he did retire last week. He doesn't want to be in the same position as last week. So, to be honest, in my opinion, this could work out for him. But look at the gap between him and Bobbert, though. As he's losing a bit of grip in Sector 2, the most damp part. You can see the spray. So some bits are too early. There's bits which are really dry, and there's bits which are still damp still. So it may not be good for any tyres. So for a majority of these guys, they may have to get used to the tyre they have. Sometimes it's quite hard. In China, I had a similar situation where I got damaged and I had to pit or risk getting a puncture, or risk losing so much time. And the only option for me was the softs. And you can see Nick is trying to get a better run here around the outside. And he does it. Maybe it wasn't the best situation for John Papp. I don't know. We do have a yellow flag in turn 7 and 8, I think. As Alfio. Yep, it is Alfio. He has got his front wing is not at the best of conditions right now. So that means he will have to pit again. And potentially, I think, do exactly similar to what I did in China back in the day. So probably he can read my mind, and oh, that was a nasty shunt. Alfio is out of the race, and it's going to take a while to clear the car, so that is why there is a safety car. Now this is going to be a difficult decision if I was Bobbert. Would I stay out on those intermediate conditions, intermediate tyres, or would I pit for the softs? I think it's too early. Far too early, especially some damp bits of the circuit. You can see which bits are dry and which bits are wet. And there's more bits that are damp. So the danger is going to be far too big. So we are going to see a shootout between a majority of these guys for the race victory. Bring it on. As quite a few people have gone for the dry tyres. So we got Humperdinck, Tom, and LGS as well, and KC. Will it be too little too late? Roberts has decided to come in for the soft tyres, I presume. And because you are on safety car conditions, once the track does dry up, you have much better grip. It lasts 7 laps, but you're going to be on safety car conditions for a few more laps. Now, I do believe Jakey will be serving his 5-second stop go in the pit lane. So there he goes then. Casey has got a drive through, speeding under the virtual safety car. That might get removed if it was a bit unfair, but maybe the deltas maybe got mixed up. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he did speed under the virtual safety car. So Jakey comes out of the pit lane in second place. But the advantage is he is going to be catching up to Roberts like a rate of knots in this safety car period. And he's got rid of that penalty. So that means it's going to be a slam dunk finish. As KC has been disqualified from the session due to receiving multiple penalties. I think that was due to the fact that he received multiple drive-throughs, but maybe the delta was not there. We don't know, because he received 2. Because I thought you would learn from that first drive-through, but you will never know. You will never know. So, lap 23 of 28. Jakey has caught up to the safety car, so has Roberts. A few more people are starting to, so I think potentially lap 25, I think, would be either end of lap 24 or end of lap 25. It's when they will be going racing once again for glory. And it's like a sprint race. Everyone has done their pit stops. Everyone has pitted for the soft tyres. It is dried up enough for the soft tyres to be viable. And the only one not on the soft tyres is John Papp. Will John Papp's strategy for going on those medium tyres pay off? As Pablo... Oh, we're getting a bit of safety car issues, I think, as well. And there's been a few overtakes under the safety car. Now, usually you will be asked to let a person through, which I think that's what they are doing as well. But a few people just getting caught up in people's mistakes, potentially. That's probably why. A few more people still to catch up to the safety car are as follows. We've got Humperdinck as well needing to catch up. It's not going to be that long before he's near the safety car. Tom as well down in 9th. Tom has not had the best of races, but at least he's still going to get some decent points out of this. LGS, 7/10 down the road, catching up as well. Everyone on the same lap. So that's going to cause less confusion than last week, because last week we saw a few people actually be a lap down. So and being a lap down, it won't let you unlap yourself. So anyway, we are about to get underway. We're racing really soon. Who do you think is going to come out on top of this? Will Roberts get his 3rd win in a row and extend his championship lead? Will Jakey do something that I don't think could happen and convert his pole to a race victory? Thank you to all of those who have just joined the Xbox One F1 action. So much has happened. We started with a full wet race. Then we went on to inters, and now we're on dry tyres, and there was a safety car. So similar things to what happened last week, apart from there wasn't a safety car towards the end there. As more people are starting to get penalties, we thought that the track could get penalty central around here, but penalties could decide some people's races. And if it stays the way it is, the DRS would only come out on the final lap. That is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. So who has timed their strategy to perfection and who hasn't? That's going to be the crucial factor. As I take a little bit of a sip of my drink. And we are going to see who's going to win this race. Anyone can win. It's just the ones that need to make sure they get themselves ready. Not put themselves into too much pressure. Because sometimes if they're under too much pressure, it can force them to lose so much time. And it can cost them a little bit more. So let's see who's going to win this race. Safety car's in this lap. So we are going to get a last lap shootout for DRS. What is happening? Bobbits, I think, went a little bit too deep into the final corner. We're having a few more, I think, penalties in the safety car. Humberdinck getting a 5-second penalty with a severe collision with... I can't remember who it was. But that might get removed if it's deemed to be viable, but we will see. Bobbert is now the safety car. So it's up to Bobbert now to control this pace. I wonder if this is going to work well for him. We will have to wait and see. As we're about to go green racing for the final time here at the Chinese Grand Prix for Xbox One F1. Are we ready for the final few laps? And we go racing, and Bobbers has had a really good restart of the line. And he's probably going to keep that lead. Jakey under a bit more pressure now. He's got Squishy Panda. She's behind Jakey. Pablo as well. John Pap as well. John Pap losing a bit of time. He's got a lot of the soft runners chasing him. So it's going to be very, very tricky. And we can see Pablo pulling away from John. So being on the soft side is definitely where you want to be right now. And obviously John staying was the only one that actually stayed out during that safety car period. Everybody else opted to go into the pit lane. So you can see the lovely helicopter shot around this Chinese circuit. And it is getting sunnier now. No damp patches of the circuit now. Just a few skid marks approaching. And you can see King Kong actually spun as well. And they touch a little bit with LGS. Both going side by side here. LGS getting a 3-second time penalty, which could come back to bite him. Here comes King Continue once again, heading towards the back straight. No DRS, don't forget though, at the moment. Maybe a bit of a switch back, but they touch just a little bit more. Maybe that's not what's meant to happen, but we will see. LGS has got a bit of damage from that, so LGS will have to pit. So Pancakes could continue his point streak. Pancakes on the back of his Red Bull compatriot. Sister versus sister, I've got to say. Sibling versus sibling here. And Bobbers is able to stretch that gap now. 1.2 seconds. I think Bobbers was really glad the safety car did come, or maybe he didn't, because due to the fact that this happened. As KC has left the session, unfortunately, but unfortunately he has retired due to the disqualifications, which is honestly, unfortunately, a bit sad. As we're approaching the final lap soon, where we will get DRS. DRS will be enabled a few laps after the safety car. And I've never seen this as intense as this. Fasten your seatbelts, everybody. Grab your popcorn. We are going to be in for a good one. So do watch out to see what happens. And we can see Squishy Panda is doing very well, actually. She's going to try and get the move on Jakey. Jakey pulling away on the final corner. People cannot get penalties. And here is a sign that we've all been waiting for. DRS enabled. John Papp in the background is pulling away. Is trying to pull away for dear life on those medium tyres. We could see penalties deciding some outcomes of this race. And if these guys have got penalties, they could drop down so many positions. Here comes Squishy Panda with a brilliant move, but Squishy's gone off. She has. Jakey getting a beautiful switchback there, which puts him into P2. But that's allowing Roberts to slightly increase that gap. Squishy Panda did not want to make that mistake. That's going to bring Pablo into this once again. But how many penalties does Pablo have? Only one way to find out. As we wait until the end here. Bobbitt goes towards the back straight here. He doesn't need DRS here. He is going to be loving this pressure that he's put on himself. He is the early championship favourite going into this in AOR, and he's going to be really happy about his performance. He wasn't expecting to win today, but once again, he started fourth, and he goes on to win the Chinese Grand Prix in Xbox One F1. As Jakey retires! What's happened to Jakey? Oh, Jakey binned it on the line. He was going to do a celebration and everything. What a shame. That would have been P2 for Jakey. But at the moment, Jonah finishes P2. John in P3. Pablo P4. Loads of penalties have come back to bite some people. Tom in 5th. Pancake 5th. Squishy. She drops all the way down into 7th. And there we go. I did say penalties could come into effect here. And it did. And your driver of the day goes to King Continue. Who would have thought that towards the end of that? So we are about to, as my game is trying to load. Hopefully it loads the standings though, because otherwise that's going to be a bit of an issue. But there we go. Bobbitt's getting the selfie once again. And takes another win. And unfortunately for the race leader, who was in P2, the pole sitter I mean, his wheel disconnected in the final corner. And that's what costed him P2. What a shame. That is sad. And that is an equivalent of a mechanical failure in real life. But anyway, we have got Bobbitt, who takes the win. Jonah getting no penalties, getting his best result of the season in P2. John Papp, the Greek, in P3. Pablo in 4th. Tom and Pancakes not getting penalties either. They benefited from it. P5 and 6th. Squishy Panda in 7th. King Continue in 8th. Humperdinck in 9th. Kontnik in 10th. And then we've got LGS 11th. Jakey 12th. Casey in 13th. Alfio 14th. And Daegu in 15th. Your retirements were Casey, Alfio and Daegu. Well, unfortunate for them. But that has been the Chinese Grand Prix here for Xbox One F1. We hope you enjoyed every minute of this action here tonight. And we will see you same time next week for I can't remember what Grand Prix it is. It is, I believe, it's at the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort, the final of the new tracks of the season. It's going to be a good one. I'm very excited for this one. Another even playing field for these guys. Could we see changeable conditions again? It's most likely to happen, but only one way to find out is to tune in next week. I've been Jess Games 95. Have a good evening, everybody. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.